Basically, I was living in this room in a house, and my room's the biggest one. And so I heard her and a friend say, like, oh, you should move her out so I can move in. And ever
Okay,
since,
so let's back up a second. How long had you been living in the house?
Since 2017, October.
Okay, and how did you end up living in the house? Did you read a Craigslist ad or what was
Well,
it?
we have a lot of mutual friends, and there's this Facebook group that's like only exclusive. And I saw that there was a room for rent, and I knew some of the people that were involved in this house because a lot of people lived in this house.
How many?
5 people.
5 people living in the house
Yes.
at once. Was there like a master lease?
I was the leaseholder.
You were the only leaseholder.
Yeah, we were actually not supposed to have any subtenants.
You're not supposed to have subtenants. All right, so what happens? You move in 20 what?
2017?
Okay, is this a therapy dog?
Yes.
Okay, and you move in 2017, and then what happens?
Well, things were really good, and we were even friends. We were hanging out and everything, but this one girl, Siva, came to move in, and everything kind of just, like, got ruined. I don't know, it just fell apart.
How so?
Well, because my room's in the kitchen, so even...
In the kitchen?
Well, my room's, like, where the kitchen is.
Off of the kitchen,
yeah.
okay.
So basically, like, even if I have a TV on and stuff, I can hear everyone when they open the fridge, and I just heard Siva saying, like, oh, it's your house, you should raise the rent on them, and you should, you know, kick this girl out, and you should do this and do that. And, you know, Allie, she was even hesitant at first. She wasn't stoked about it or anything, but then she ended up acting upon that. And one day...
How did she act upon that?
Well, one day I went to go get, like, toilet paper, and I went to get all these necessities for the house, and I went to clean the bathroom and the kitchen, and I left, like, a note saying that I was grateful to live there. And Allie tore it up, and she said, I don't like your attitude, get out of here. And so they started...
A note that says, I'm grateful to live here doesn't cause somebody to rip it up. Was there a problem between you and Allie that...
I mean, she's been, like, acting like she's my friend to my face, but I heard that she's just been hating me. She's been hating me for no reason.
Can you give me specifics, though? Like, what did she say to you that caused you to believe that?
Well, she said she didn't like my attitude, even though I don't really see her, but also, like, there'd be times at 6 in the morning she would throw dishes around and, like, yell things at my door.
Like what?
Like, oh, I'd kill myself if I was your mom, if I had kids like you, and, like, I hope
What was she... Were they your dishes that you had left?
No,
Is that
she just has this thing about dishes. I don't know, she gets really crazy, but since my room's right there, she kind of takes it out on me, and so
Right, but were those dishes that you had left? Is that what you're...
I have never...
See, that would make sense to me. That's why I'm asking, but otherwise it doesn't make any sense.
I have never used a single dish in that kitchen. I don't use the kitchen. I want to turn the kitchen to a gym, because I do not use the kitchen. I've never cooked in my life.
Okay.
So, like, I absolutely do not, and that's why it made
All right,
even
so then
less
what
sense.
goes... Okay, so it's descending into a very uncomfortable situation, and then what happens?
Well, and then Allie started being really aggressive to me, and so, like, I watch other people's dogs and everything, and so one time there was these clients that came over to drop off their dogs, and Allie aggressively was like, where's the rent money? And she just called me the B word, like, really aggressively in front of those people, and I was just like, oh my God, this is awful.
What day of the month was it?
That was probably like May 1st.
It was the day rent was due?
It was probably like April 29th-ish.
So it was 29 days after rent was due? Or it was the day before rent was due?
It was the day before rent was due, but what happened was there's a huge leak in my room. I mean, like, the shower, it's a huge bubble of water, and it went into the smoke alarm, and so the smoke alarm started going crazy, and it had been doing that for like a week, and then eventually the smoke alarm started just popping like a firecracker, and it almost caused a fire, and, like, my shoes got ruined because of the water, and a bunch of stuff got ruined for the water. So when I went to court, they said, you can withhold your rent, you qualify, you know, this seems legit.
Okay.
Girl, okay, so you had quite literally the Lord's rain coming down on you in the desert, and you decided to just go to court and do all this thing about withholding rent. Girl, just leave. Go find a new place to live. I mean, why would you want to live somewhere where they are just demanding you of your rent? They're demanding that you give them, you know, rent a day or two before rent is due. It just doesn't make any sense. And then on top of that, she brings her dog to court. There's something telling me that she may be, you know, having every right to complain about stuff, but there's something telling me that perhaps maybe she might be a little odd. But let's keep watching.
Stop. When you went to court against whom?
Against, like, the landlord for, because
Except for that you're not even appropriately on the lease. So you...
Well, I guess I told Allie first, and then I didn't know...
I know, your contract is with Allie. You've never met the landlord.
Well, see,
in other words, you would have to withhold rent from her.
Well,
and sue her in court. Where did you go to court? Landlord-tenant court?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason why I didn't go directly to Allie was because a couple days before that, I was waking up early to get in the shower, and I had unlocked my door, and she walked in as I was undressing, and she was like, "Do you have the rent? Do you find a new place to live?" And I was like, half naked, and I was like, "What the hell?" And so I was like, "Yes, or just leave me alone for a minute." It was like early in the morning, 6 or 7 in the morning, and then she left. And so I was like, "God, this is like really awful." And so that's why I couldn't. When it started, then it started.
Who
leaking.
told you could live there and not pay rent?
The housing department told me that.
Okay. So when was the last time you contributed towards the rent that she is responsible for paying?
April 1st.
Okay.
But
Is there a disagreement about that, or was it April 1st the last time?
She had been consistently late or short on rent, had paid no utilities for about 6 months.
That's false.
In May, we asked her to pay rent. The incident she's citing, I did not go into her room. She came out into the
Okay,
kitchen.
no. I asked one question. Are we on the same page about what rent when
No,
she stopped
she's been
paying
withholding
rent?
rent.
Okay, when was the last time she paid rent? April?
Yes.
And her share is how much?
$700.
Okay, now, let's talk about what you say happened. At some point in May, according to you, there is destruction of your personal property.
May 5th.
What happened?
Well, she had been wanting me off the property so badly, and I had not seen an eviction notice of any sort. I didn't see anything filed from the court. It was just her being aggressively wanting me out. So on May 31st, she came knocking on my door, and she started saying, "Oh, I know you're in there." And she went to go get different things to open the door, and then eventually she had like a knife, and I have pictures here of the damages.
Just keep telling me. She got a knife and what?
Okay, and I was scared, so I was texting everybody in the house, like, "Come down here right now. She's at my door. Come down here right now." I was terrified. I was in my bed, like, pretending to be asleep because I was shaking. And no one was home, and I was like, "Can you please come downstairs?" And so I was texting my friends.
Did you call the police?
Well, no, because I was like...
Okay, so what happened then? She picked the lock with the knife?
Eventually, one of the roommates, Matt, he was coming home because he's like, "I'm on my way home." And so when he came in there, I was like, "This is crazy. I'm scared. I don't know what to do." But all he was worried about was his money and his eviction. And I was like,
I'm sorry. Can you just tell me what happens with the knife picking? What happened?
That's
Did she
it.
get in?
She went back to the living room.
Did she get in?
No, she didn't get in.
Okay, so she got a knife and then she started trying to pick the lock?
Yes, over
And
and
then
over
she
for a
didn't
while.
get in?
No, she didn't get in.
Okay. And then what happens?
So when you get a bunch of, quite frankly, all these people look like very grown as adults here. But when you get a bunch of them together in a house, it's really strange. Where do you guys live? Are you guys living in San Francisco? Are you guys living in LA or something? Because the rent is so high that you have to 5 adults, like grown adults, have to cram into some building, and then you guys are acting like chaotically and stuff. Now, when she shares these stories about the knife and the picklocking thing with the knife and stuff, I actually believe her, because when you look at this lady here, she literally looks like she is gonna do something to you in the middle of the night when you're sleeping. I would be afraid as well, but this only furthers my point. Just move out. Why are you living here? There's no reason for you to be living somewhere like this if you have so many issues. You have quite literally water coming down, bubbling your ceiling. And the thing is, even if the water gets fixed, you have to deal with so many other issues like mold growth, and that can cause health issues, and that can cause severe health issues that are lifelong issues that you have to deal with right away. And I guarantee you that this lady here, honey, ain't going to do that. So in my opinion, the best option is to just move out before you get to this point where you're showing up on TV court. Let's keep watching.
When I was texting the other housemates, Matt came home, and he came inside, and I was like, "This is really crazy. This is scary." And he wasn't really paying attention to what I was saying. So the next morning, I was getting a text from the other housemate, Lee, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna force you off the property today." And I said, I was scared, so I was like, "I'm just gonna call the cops." So I called the cops.
Are you still living there?
No.
Okay. So now we're in the beginning of May. You're calling the cops, and what happens?
Well, the cops suggested that I go and get a restraining order because I said they kept, trying to get me out of there, and they kept harassing me, basically.
On what grounds were you going to get a restraining order?
On the fact that she was slamming doors in my face, that she was
That's restraining order worthy? I got
No,
news
she
for you.
was at my
So
door.
what happened? Did you get a restraining order?
I did.
That's amazing.
Temporary.
Did you try to get in there with a knife?
No. I knocked on her door to ask her for rent, and I didn't even know if she was home because she hadn't said anything.
What was the deal about the dishes?
The dishes were like, that has nothing to do with her. Sometimes I would get up and the kitchen would be trashed, and I'd be like, Oh my God, dishes. You know, it had nothing to do with her. Half the time I didn't even know if she was
Because
there.
other people in the house were leaving dishes in the
Yeah,
sink?
it was a trash pit. We had 5 people living there, you know. It's like, what can you do?
Not live with 5 people who are pigs.
Oh, I'm not doing it anymore.
Right.
Trust me.
That's
not
what you
after
can
this.
do. In any event, so now, according to you, on May, I guess we're now around the first week in May. What happens? According to you, there's a bunch of destruction of your property. Tell me about that.
Well, okay, because I wasn't unlocking my door. I heard them as in Allie and one other housemate, going around nitpicking at all my things, and they.
What is nitpicking at your things?
Just like finding whatever has to do with me around the house and either tossing it out or putting it in the trash, or because I'm an artist and I do like large scale cartoon paintings, and I put them in the hallway so they don't get messed up because I had sold them, and I was going to get them framed right after my art show, which is like in a few months. And so she went and tore them off, and I guess she
What,
wrinkled.
did you sell them, or you were going to
I-
get them framed a few months from
I
now?
sold them, but they were letting me wait till the art show to give them to them, because I still had to get them framed.
Do you have proof of payment?
Yes, I do.
Did something happen to those paintings?
Yes, Allie ripped them and she wrinkled them and she put them in the trash. But I have a statement from another housemate saying that they told her to get them out of the trash. But they
May
were.
I
there's-
see the statement?
Yes. It's the one that's like a hard stock.
This is a statement that I, Tiffany Mahan, was living in the house when I personally witnessed one occasion in the house right after Allie Denning had destroyed Jasmine's paintings. I woke up to a house meeting in which Lee, another housemate, was telling Allie to go get the paintings out of the trash. Do you remember that discussion? Mm-hmm. And that meeting? Had you put her Beavis and Butthead, big fan, by the way, had you put her Beavis and Butthead paintings inside of the trash?
So the paintings that she's describing had been hanging in a public hallway. One of the paintings that she's describing had been hanging behind the washing machine for over a year. They were taped together, printer paper, taped together marker drawings that had been hanging in a public place. That was where people passed through to go to the kitchen. We parked bikes there. We, like, you know, it was a public area. She voluntarily
That
hung
still
them.
doesn't give you a right to rip them off the wall.
I took the
I disagree with the judge here because if they are just printer paper, marker paintings, whatever you want to call it, that maybe like some little kid would be doing for fun and then putting it up on the wall. And not only that, but they're Beavis and Butthead pictures. I feel like, you know, there's maybe a reason why you would actually decide to rip those off and throw them in the trash. Now, if it was your daughter or your son, you know, you'd probably be a bad parent if you did something like this, but I definitely would say that, I'm sorry, honey, now I'm starting to think that this girl with the dog and the pink glasses might be a little weird.
them down and rolled them up, and we gave them back to her.
Okay. I've got a picture of how you took them down and rolled them up.
I did not do that.
Okay.
She caused that.
All
We
right,
rolled
do you-
them up and gave them back to her.
All right. Do you have any proof of how you, but so you understand when you're taking them down and she says this is how they were, and there's another witness saying that she had destroyed your paintings.
That's not true.
I'm not inclined to believe you carefully rolled them up. Plus, you know, if you're sharing a house with somebody, just don't touch them because this is going to become an issue, you know? Tell me about what you're suing for. Bart Simpson painting, Bullwinkle painting, couch stool, couch, office chair, fan, paper trimmer, laser, $1,200 for a color laser printer and cartridge.
Really big one.
$2,800 for artwork materials that were used in the paintings that were destroyed. So apparently you spend $3,000 of paint for paintings that are worth $1,000 something. $1,350 for classes because you withdrew from classes because you're so upset. And another $2,000 for emotional trauma. You're gonna have to justify all that, sweetheart.
Well, see, the whole thing with my classes is that one of my classes was piano, and it's not like I can study the night before. I have to actually sit there and play the piano for a long time. And I was just getting so behind that I had to drop my classes. That was like my.
How's that her fault, and how should she pay for your classes?
Because she kept coming to uninvitedly, and she kept I was just so stressed out. I was going to the courthouses all the time, and I was like, I'm gonna have to drop my classes because Allie's just so scary.
All right, now tell me about one other alternative is just leave, right?
Well, during this time, I was still looking for a place to live, but since I have a dog, serviced or not, people.
Well, not service or not. You're from California. You have a service dog.
I know.
In the worst of states. you would be able to move in with a service dog. In California, the dog could move in and not pay rent. So please don't tell me, it's so hard because I have a service
A lot
dog.
of people don't want to live with my dog, and it's like, if they're trying to use that against me, even though he's service, why would I want to live somewhere who doesn't want to live with my dog?
All right, so now talk to me about the damaged stuff.
Well, I have this guy, he was commissioning me to do the Bullwinkle painting, and I have the printouts of the conversation. And so he obviously is not going to get that painting. And also,
I'm sorry, what happened to the painting?
Well, that was one of the ones that she ripped. I had several paintings in the hallway.
Okay.
And she had ripped off a few paintings. Like, I mean,
Okay, do you have a picture of those paintings
Yes,
ruined?
I do.
And why are you taking them down to begin with?
They caused massive damage to the walls and the way she hung them. We were trying to repaint the hallways so that if we, in the event that we did move out, the landlord wouldn't seek like any type of financial compensation for the walls being damaged.
And this is where I think that she's wrong, and quite literally she's getting caught in her own lie. Because if you think about it, previously she had mentioned to herself and to the judge that the whole place was a complete trash pit because it was 5 adults living in this house and they were completely trashing the kitchen and it was a mess and it was a muck. You really think that she cares that much about the smallest little details and change of the wear and tear on the walls? Most of the time, landlords have to pay out of pocket for small minor damages to the walls because that's just the natural wear and tear of a home when someone is living in there. So I think that her story is starting to crumble a little bit.
Repaint the walls.
But then you put them in the trash.
We actually did not trash them. I believe that the evidence she's showing you is falsified. I rolled them up and we gave them back to her. I really
Came back to her how? Where?
We placed them in the hallway for her to pick up. They were in like a storage area in the hallway. We just rolled them up and she was able to come get
Are all
them.
of the paintings on paper?
They're on like printout, like this type of paper,
Oh, wait,
like
you have
taped
the
together.
packet. It's in that same packet. So it's really big. A lot of paint goes into those because I have a lot of tiny little paints.
Okay, were they rolled up in a hallway?
She had put them on the stairs. I don't know. I guess when she
Okay,
put
were all the paintings on the stairs?
not all of them. I had to
Which were
find
missing?
the Bart Simpson one was folded up in the back and outside,
Okay.
and some of them they were in the backyard.
Do you have any pictures of how the Bart Simpson one was damaged?
No, because I had thrown it away. I was just so disgusted by the fact that it was
Okay,
ruined.
how do you figure I'm going to order her to pay you $800 if you don't have any pictures of how she
Understandable.
damaged it? Now, do you have any pictures of how she damaged the Bullwinkle one?
No, because that was one of the ones I just
Okay.
threw away. I was
Now,
just-
$189 for a couch stool. What did she do with your couch stool?
There's a picture. Oh, sorry, it's right here. Everything that was mine, she just decided to just toss out. It's all there.
Did you call the police, ma'am, when you saw that your stuff had been removed?
Well, yes, because I was scared that it was going to.
May I see evidence of the police report where you described that all this happened?
The reason why the police didn't take a report is because they said it was a civil dispute and that I would have to go to court.
Can I just see evidence that you even called the police?
Do you need my phone? Or I
Well,
don't
I don't know. Whatever you want to provide as evidence. Most times people have a police report. They could
wouldn't
have a
give me
police case
report.
number. There could be all kinds of stuff.
I don't know if it would go all the way back.
Because, I got to tell you also that when you sit around suing for your classes and when you sue for $12.50 for that color printer,
it was $1,000 color printer. It was really big, and then the cartridge that goes inside of it's a few $100s.
And she left it outside for 6 months.
No, Allie put it out there after it was in the guest room because she rented out
let
the
me
guest
see
room.
evidence that that color printer was purchased. Well, first of all, that it was ever valued at $12.50. Do you have that?
I don't have that because I bought
okay,
it so
do you,
long.
you understand, right? You come in here and you just say, I'm suing for 10 grand. You got to be able to prove the stuff you're suing for, right?
Right.
Okay, $2,836 precisely in artwork material. Explain that part of your suit.
Well, I was just estimating how much paint went into.
Just estimate. You have zero evidence of that loss, but you want me to order her to pay it to you, right? Okay. Do you have evidence that you contacted the police when you saw this stuff out there? Because she says you moved that stuff out there and you're trying to frame her on it.
It doesn't date back to May 1st, so I guess not.
So that's a no, you don't have evidence of it? Okay, and if you're taking a picture of it in the alleyway, why are you suing for its value? Why don't you just put it back in?
Because it had been pooped on by birds and dogs, and it's been peed on by cats, and I didn't want to bring it back in because it was all thrown out there
Do
carelessly.
you have evidence of any of the amounts that you're suing for the items, like that couch that I'm looking at in that
No,
alleyway
I bought
is
them-
worth $400? Do you?
No.
Okay. Now, you had an audio you wanted me to listen to.
Yes.
This is an audio of the defendant.
Yes.
Allie will do the dishes. Allie will pay all the bills. You got it.
Oh God.
Allie will take out our trash.
You! Not your mom! I'm killing myself by kids like you!
Who are you talking to?
Her,
Her?
because she's awful.
Maybe Allie's tired of doing dishes, taking out the trash, and paying the bills.
I am
Not
sick
your
of it.
finest moment.
No, but
No.
that argument was one of many we had.
Nothing can be worse than living in a situation where you are A, afraid of someone, B, this angry at someone, and C, in this kind of turmoil where your property's being taken off walls and or where you're stuck paying bills for someone else.
She's not paying
It's
my bills.
crazy. It's crazy.
I've been in situations like this before in the past when I've had roommates who are grown adults and they, for whatever reason, decide that they're just gonna let someone else deal with and clean up all their stuff. And that is so wrong. And it's actually so aggravating. And I can understand why someone like her would maybe start to go a little bit crazy-eyed, if you know what I'm saying. But the thing is that's so strange is why is anyone living in this situation? Like, why, how did we even get here? Like, you could easily just move out. You could easily just, there's so many things you could do before you get to this point. And so I'm curious as to why it's gotten so bad. Is the rent everywhere else so expensive in LA? Like, what is the deal here? Like, you could just literally move anywhere else and not have to deal with this. And trust me, there's plenty of grown adults who need roommates in LA because that's pretty much all of the LA population, unless you're married, live with your parents, or super rich. But let's keep watching.
What ended up happening with all of this stuff? Did you end up leaving it all behind? The stuff that's...
I ended up just tossing it because it got destroyed.
Okay, I find that you cannot prove $10,000 worth of damage. I find that if that you can prove that your Beavis and Butthead stuff was taken off the wall. You have zero evidence of any of the other things that you're talking about. And if I were to find that there is damage, it is more than taken up with the June rent. So I'm finding in this case in favor of the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the plaintiff just can't prove she's out $10,000 worth of damages, and unfortunately, the judge finds for the defendant. How do you feel about what just happened?
I feel defeated. I feel abused and defeated by someone awful who's just going to keep abusing more people.
You're talking about the defendant.
Yes.
Well, you're out of there now. At least that's good, right?
Yes.
You know, I wanted to ask you a question. You're doing pictures of Beavis and Butthead characters and so on. Can you do that legally?
I mean, so many people are doing it, but also if you change little things about them, you know, it's like, it doesn't violate the copyright.
All right. Listen, I'm sorry you couldn't prevail. That's it. Okay. The judge listened to you carefully. All right, here comes Miss Denig. I would assume you're glad this is all over.
I'm so happy it's over.
Do you think you will be held responsible now for all the damages in the house in any way?
I don't see why. I mean, I've offered to go and repaint it for the landlord because
Yeah.
he's just, he's been through more crap with this than any of us,
Okay. So everybody's out?
Yes. We are
It's
out.
over.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
God.
Goodbye. Good riddance. That's it, right? Good enough. Okay. Thank you very much.
This was such a strange case, and to be honest with you, it's your typical LA experience where you have a bunch of grown adults crammed into one tiny house where you have somebody who is like living in a closet and then another person is living out of the garage because rent is just so high up in that area. And then there's a bunch of people who are unwilling and unable to get married and start families in LA. I mean, there's people who do it, but like, I used to live in LA and I got to see how many people are living that lifestyle, and it's a time warp. And then all of a sudden they wake up and they're 40 years old and they're like, wait, I need to start thinking about starting a family now. But my acting career hasn't started. So anyways, not to dive too deep into that because, I don't want to make anyone mad here, but the case was interesting because for a second I thought maybe the judge was going to be giving her and granting her some sort of, pay and stuff like that. But as I started to listen more, she had no proof to show any of the stuff that she was claiming was damaged or that she needed to be repaid for. And although the defendant had some pretty intense eyes as she was looking at us, and she had kind of seemed like she was an intense person. There was a recording of her being really angry and stuff. I do agree that this was the correct judgment and that she did not necessarily have to be held liable for paying for any of these things because she didn't really do anything wrong, you know? And I think that by the looks of this lady in the pink, she seems like she would be a kind of a hard person to live with because there's nothing worse than someone taking over the common area and putting up their paintings all over the place, especially paintings that you maybe don't want to look at, and then just all of a sudden claiming that it's your fault that they're gone and all this stuff, you know? So I agree with the judgment, but I want to know what you guys think about this. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with this judgment or do you disagree? Please leave your comments down below and I want to hear your thoughts.